Although its nickname is the Big Friendly, Oklahoma City has a lot more going for it than just its friendly people. The story of OKC's founding is perhaps the most unique in the country, and the city has grown to become what some people have referred to as a Cinderella city. In this series, I briefly cover a city's history, population, skyline, as well as a few things that make the city unique. Now let's meet Oklahoma City. I always like to start by exploring how a city wound up being where it is today, and no city has an origin story quite as chaotic as Oklahoma City. After the Civil War, an area in the center of what is today Oklahoma became known as the unassigned lands because Native American tribes hadn't been settled in that area. On April 22, 1889, the government opened the unassigned lands for settlement, and the town of Oklahoma City was born in a single day. The land run, as it's called, began at noon with an estimated 50,000 people lined up at what was essentially a starting line in a race for property. This chaotic moment in history has been described by one historian as, quote, the most disorderly episode of urban settlement this country and perhaps the world has ever witnessed. The city grew rapidly thanks to factors such as it becoming a distribution point for cattle and crops, the city being designated as the state capital, and then finally the discovery of oil within the city in 1928. In 1930, just 40 years after the land run, Oklahoma City was home to over 185,000 people. Today, Oklahoma City has a population just shy of 700,000, making it the 20th largest city in the country. I tend to think that metro population is a better indicator of a city's size, and Oklahoma City has a metro population of 1,460,000, which makes it the 42nd largest metro in the country, being smaller than Raleigh, North Carolina, and larger than Louisville, Kentucky. Some of the most recognizable companies headquartered in the OKC metro include Sonic, Hobby Lobby, Love's, and Paycom. There are 15 public and private colleges in the larger metro area, the most notable being the University of Oklahoma. Call me shallow, but when it comes to cities, I think appearances matter, which is why evaluating a city's skyline is one of my favorite parts of making these videos. Oklahoma City does have a bit of an odd-looking skyline because of the significant height difference between its tallest building and the other buildings in the skyline. The tallest building, the Devon Tower, is 844 feet in height and certainly stands out from the much shorter buildings that make up the skyline. If you took the average height of the tallest 5 buildings in the city, OKC would be ranked as the 25th tallest skyline in the country, being just shorter than Columbus, Ohio, and taller than Tampa, Florida. However, if I were to rank skylines by their single tallest building, OKC would be ranked as the 14th tallest skyline in the country and would be taller than any skyline in Canada other than Toronto. Although I may not love the look of the skyline as a whole, I do think the Devon Tower is a beautiful building. I think it'd be one of the best looking skyscrapers in any skyline in the country outside of New York and Chicago. Directly across the street from the Devon Tower is the Myriad Botanical Gardens, at the center of which is one of the most unique buildings in the city, the Crystal Bridge Conservatory. The tubular conservatory is 224 feet long and is covered by more than 3,000 translucent panels. The conservatory houses various plants from 2 distinct climates, as well as a reflecting pool and a waterfall. On the north end of the city is one of the most significant landmarks in the city, the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum. Prior to 9/11, the most horrific terrorist attack on American soil was in 1995, when a truck filled with explosives blew up in front of a federal building in OKC, which killed 168 people. The memorial sits on the site of the destroyed building. It's an outdoor memorial with features such as twin bronze gates, a reflecting pool, and 168 handcrafted chairs to symbolize those that lost their lives in the attack. There is also a national museum there about that tragic day and the lessons we can learn from it. Another unique museum in Oklahoma City is the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. The large museum has over 28,000 artworks and artifacts from the American West, including the world's largest collection of artifacts related to American rodeos. Another museum related to the American frontier is the First American Museum. This museum displays art and artifacts from 39 different Native American tribes, as well as providing live educational programs. A unique neighborhood in Oklahoma City is Bricktown, where there is a mile-long canal running through the neighborhood. It's certainly not as grand as the San Antonio Riverwalk it was inspired by, but it's still a really nice canal that gives a certain vibrancy to that part of the city. There's a water taxi that can be taken up and down the canal, which goes right through the famous Land Run Monument. The monument consists of 47 realistic statues recreating the famous land run that led to OKC becoming a city. It's considered to be one of the largest series of bronze sculptures in the world, if not the largest. A couple miles north of Bricktown is the Oklahoma State Capitol building. The Capitol building itself looks like a run-of-the-mill state capitol building, but the grounds of the Capitol building are certainly one of a kind. The Capitol building sits atop the Oklahoma City oil field and is the only state capitol building with active oil rigs operating on its grounds. An eye-catching piece of public art is the Skydance Bridge, which is a pedestrian bridge spanning Interstate 40. The large piece of art is one of the primary symbols of the city and is inspired by the mating dance of the Oklahoma State bird, the scissor-tailed flycatcher. The bridge connects Upper and Lower Scissortail Park, which is an amazing urban park stretching from downtown to the river. As I mentioned earlier, Oklahoma City has long been an important distribution point for cattle, and today OKC is home to the Oklahoma National Stockyards, which is the largest cattle market in the whole world. The last video I made was about Seattle, and surprisingly, Seattle and Oklahoma City have a couple of interesting connections for two cities that couldn't be much more different. In my Seattle video, I mentioned the Chihuly Gardens and Glass, but the largest permanent exhibit for Dale Chihuly's artwork is actually in Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma City Museum of Art. Another connection the cities have is that in 2008, the Seattle Supersonics relocated their franchise to Oklahoma City and became the Oklahoma City Thunder. They play in the Paycom Center adjacent to Scissortail Park. Well, that wraps up my video about OKC. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and check out some of my other videos about cities. Thanks for watching.